The green tea elder sister, in her bid to climb the social ladder, took advantage of the regent's drunken state and administered 3 full packets of aphrodisiac powder. The regent went wild all night, and the next day, he surrounded our Jiang residence with thousands of soldiers. "I will bring ruin upon this world along with myself." The green tea elder sister trembled in a corner, then pushed me out in front of everyone. I glanced at the regent and said, "I will marry you." Upon hearing this, the regent prince locked eyes with me for a moment, silently sheathed his sword, and sighed deeply toward the sky. "It is time for me to make peace with this world." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. On the day Zhu Tingen delivered the betrothal gifts, my father nearly fainted from weeping over the wedding chest. This old man never expected that even my unruly daughter would have someone willing to propose marriage. "Truly, our ancestors have taken pity on me." He immediately knelt down, kowtowed 3 times vigorously toward the direction of the family shrine, and then bowed deeply and solemnly to the prince's servants who had come with the gifts. "Please inform the prince that as long as he is willing to marry my daughter, I ask for no betrothal gifts. In fact, I will contribute an additional 100,000 taels of pure silver." As soon as these words were spoken, the green tea elder sister Jiang Yuhe burst into tears, sobbing, "Father, have you lost your mind? How much silver have you earned in your entire lifetime? And now you're pouring it all into Jiang Qingye. When your daughter marries in the future, will you offer up your old bones as dowry?" The old man slapped Jiang Yuhe across the face, spittle flying as he roared, "With all my pride and integrity, how did I raise such a greedy, wealth-obsessed wretch? Your sister is unruly and will only bring disaster if she stays. What are you competing with her for? If you keep spouting nonsense, I'll beat you to death today." Jiang Yue's body went limp and she collapsed to the ground, covering her face with a handkerchief, nearly fainting from weeping. "Father, you're driving your daughter to her death." The old man kicked her, cursing under his breath, "If you weren't my own flesh and blood, I'd have begged the emperor to have you executed long ago. All you do is seduce men, throwing yourself at the prince one moment, collapsing onto the heir's lap the next, and yet not a single one has taken a liking to you. You're not even as good as your sister. What did I do to deserve birthing the 2 of you? What a curse!" Cries rose and fell in the courtyard. The servants from the prince's mansion, who had come to deliver the betrothal gifts, were so embarrassed they wished they could dig a hole and disappear on the spot. I let out a cold snort, pulled out my small whip, and with one lash, split the wedding chest open, sending golden ingots clattering all over the ground. Jiang Yuhe's eyes went wide and fixed, and with a delicate flick of her handkerchief, she cooed, "Qingye, if you want to hit someone, hit father. His skin is thick and can take a beating. Your sister is still counting on this delicate, tender skin of hers to find you a good brother-in-law to protect you." Jiang Yuhe crouched on the ground, picked up a gold ingot, and bit it hard with her teeth. Seeing it was real, she grabbed a handful and stuffed them into her robe, not minding how they pressed against her chest. I stepped over the chest and walked toward the servant. "Go back and tell your prince that I don't care for these vulgar things. If he's truly sincere, let him go seize the throne instead." The servant trembled all over, unable to utter a word for a long time. It was my father who reacted faster. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the spot. My father, Jiang Zheng, is a censor in the Western Sea Kingdom, known for his integrity and uprightness. If he dared claim to be second in loyalty to the sovereign and love for the country, no one in the Western Sea Kingdom would dare claim first. Unfortunately, neither of his 2 daughters is easy to handle. The eldest daughter, Jiang Yuhe, is a notorious green tea figure in the capital. There isn't a single son of an official from a 3rd-rank family or above whom she hasn't flirted with. She is beautiful, and men fall for her charms one after another, but due to her tarnished reputation, no one has ever come to propose marriage. As for me, I'm too rebellious, born with a defiant spirit. My sister was wild, so I wanted to persuade her to reform. My father was loyal to the emperor and devoted to the country, so I wanted to see him rebel and overthrow the court, from childhood on, to boost my father's ambition. I urged him countless times to take advantage of the emperor's favor and stab the young emperor to death, so we could proclaim ourselves emperor, but my father was extremely stubborn. His lifelong wish was to die by crashing into the palace hall and leave a lasting reputation. Our paths were different, so we couldn't work together. Thus, the bond between us father and daughter was very weak. Speaking of Prince Regent Tingen, he was no ordinary man either. At 3, he could read and write. At 4, his mother passed away. At 5, he was abused by the Empress Dowager and nearly didn't survive. At 6, he was pushed into a lake by the late emperor and almost drowned. At 7, he was forced to leave the capital to become a hostage in the neighboring Shiliang kingdom, enduring all kinds of humiliation. At 15, he returned to the capital, killed the late emperor, and installed his younger brother on the throne, remaining in the position of Prince Regent for over a decade. I deeply sympathize with his experiences, but I cannot understand his actions. If he had the power to overthrow the court, why did he settle for the mere role of regent? I don't understand. So, I would go to the prince's residence every now and then to discuss the grand plan of ascending the throne with him. Each time I was full of enthusiasm. Tingen would lie on the couch, propping his head up to look at me, his lazy demeanor making him look like an invalid. After I finished analyzing all the favorable conditions, he would order a plate of Osmanthus cakes to be served. Once the cakes were eaten, he would leisurely say, "See the guest out." After this happened several times, my interest in him completely vanished. A coward whose mind is only filled with Osmanthus cakes, why should I waste my time on him? I don't care, but my green tea sister certainly does. Jiang Yuhe is a very decisive green tea, for anyone she sets her sights on. She gives only 3 chances. The first time, she plays hard to get. The second, she tries persuasion. The third, she forces the issue. Conventionally, most men would take the bait on the first try, and there were very few who could be persuaded by her sweet words, let alone those who would resort to force. Yet, Tingen was exactly that kind of man. The first time, Jiang Yuhe happened to fall into his arms, her chest fully exposed, a truly dazzling sight. Yet, Tingen remained unmoved, kicking her away with one foot, pointing his blade at her bosom, and angrily shouting, "Do you believe I'll chop it off?" The second time, Jiang Yuhe tried again, sobbing as she went to his door, weeping for 2 full hours, pouring out her burning love for Tingen. This time, Tingen didn't draw his blade. Perhaps it was the first time in his life he had heard a noblewoman confess her feelings, and he was stirred with emotion. He simply waved his hand, and dozens of hidden guards sprang into action, each giving her a kick, promptly sending Jiang Yuhe flying out of the prince's mansion. The third time, Jiang Yuhe went all out. Using a full 3 packets of aphrodisiac powder, enough to keep 10 strong adult bulls restless and active all night, she mixed it into a bowl of thick kanji, sprinkled some Osmanthus sugar on top, and served it with the evening meal. Tingen's fondness for Osmanthus was no secret, and the cooks in the mansion often used it in their dishes. Without a second thought, Tingen drank the aphrodisiac-laced kanji down to the last drop, overjoyed. Jiang Yuhe stripped herself completely bare and laid herself on Tingen's bed, waiting for the deed to be done so she could secure her position as the princess consort. Little did she expect that she had overdosed the medicine. Tingen immediately spat out 3 liters of blood, grabbed a knife, and was about to kill her. I was originally hiding in the shadows watching the commotion, but when I saw he was serious, I feared he might actually chop Jiang Yuhe with his knife. So I stepped out with my whip. Jiang Yuhe didn't even have time to put on her clothes and fled by climbing over the wall. As she went over the top, her butt got a cut, and she cried from the pain all the way. Tingen and I fought the entire night, leaping and darting around the prince's mansion in the dark. It took over 3,000 rounds to barely extinguish the wicked fire that had flared up in Tingen. The next day, when I left the mansion, under the bright sky and in front of everyone, my legs gave way and I collapsed to the ground. Rumors spread throughout the capital. The regent is as strong as an ox, and the second Miss Jiang nearly died in bed. These troublesome commoners. I took Jiang Yuhe out for a leisurely stroll, wandering around the streets. Our first stop was the gambling den. Jiang Yuhe flirtatiously shook her chest at a cheating gambler, stirring the heart of that man over 40 and making him forget all about his tricks. In just a short hour, I had made a fortune. Next, we went to the brothel. I called for a group of young male entertainers to play music. while Jiang Yuhe sweet-talked the ladies, coaxing them into teaching her the latest tricks in the capital for seducing men. After 3 rounds of drinks, Zhu Ting'an appeared. What a coincidence. Your Highness is also visiting the brothel. I was already somewhat drunk, completely indifferent to the man's overwhelming anger, and raised my glass from afar, inviting him to drink with me. Zhu Ting'an, however, was not the gentle and understanding type. He slammed his 2-meter-long broadsword onto the table with a loud thud, spilling the wine all over the floor, and the courtesans hurriedly fled with their peepers in hand, especially Jiang Yuhe, who lifted her skirt and darted under the bed in the blink of an eye, leaving only a pair of eyes fixed on Zhu Ting'an. Her gaze held humiliation, resentment, and admiration, a complex mix of emotions. Pathetic. I heard that you think the betrothal gifts are too meager. I tilted my head back and downed a cup, for the first time in my life taking a good look at Zhu Ting'an's appearance. Although this person had a tragic childhood, he was, after all, of noble descent, carrying an innate aura of intimidation and authority, and possessed a very defiant appearance, with pale, cool-toned skin and sharp, intense eyes. In the capital, he was considered to have a very masculine appearance. Zhu Ting'an sat down with bold, sweeping movements, his heroic brows furrowed. Jiang Qingye, that's a salary your father couldn't earn in 3 lifetimes, and you actually think it's too little. I wagged my finger and let out a tipsy burp. Not so, with my father's stubborn old-fashioned ways, he couldn't earn this much silver in 8 lifetimes. Zhu Ting'an laughed in disbelief. You know it too. Of course I know. If Jiang Zheng had been that promising, I would have been a princess by now. Jiang Qingye, don't bother making excuses. You were the one who offered to marry me. If you dare go back on your word, I'll surround the Jiang residence and chop off that flaunting thing your sister's always showing off. Let's see how she dares stir up trouble in the capital again. I glanced sideways under the bed and saw Jiang Yuhe trembling, clutching her chest tightly and tucking it down forcefully. Her eyes filled with nothing but humiliated tears. The gauze curtain in the room swayed slightly as a gentle breeze passed through. I steadied myself against the table and stumbled over to Zhu Ting'an. He was much taller and more robust than me. I reached up, grabbing the front of his robe, squinting my eyes slightly. Does your Highness truly intend to marry me? Zhu Ting'an looked down at me, his gaze dark and profound. What else? What does the prince like about me, if I remember correctly? I have met Zhu Ting'an several times, but every time we met, aside from discussing important matters, there seemed to be no other conversation, let alone any affection. If it weren't for the ostentatious entourage of 100 or so servants accompanying him, I probably wouldn't even recognize his face if we passed each other on the street. So, what does he like about me? Enough to choose me over the great beauty Jiang Yuhe. Zhu Ting'an's eyes gleamed with a golden light. His brows and eyes relaxed, a look of savoring the moment on his face. In all my years as a prince, I have never been beaten so thoroughly by a woman. Oh, so he enjoys being beaten. The day she married into the prince's mansion was chosen quite casually. One married without sincerity, the other wed without affection. Thus, the day was chosen with no particular significance. If there was one difference, it was that Jiang Yuhe cried for the first time ever. That damned old fool. He doesn't like such ample bosoms. Is he even a man at all? While putting on my wedding dress, I managed to pat her shoulder in the midst of my busy preparations to comfort her. Don't worry, he's a real man. Seeing me gesture, Jiang Yuhe cried even harder, pounding her ample chest and shaking it vigorously. It's all your fault for not being more capable. All your fault. It can't be entirely blamed for not being ambitious. Compared to the cold and quiet of the Jiang residence, the Regent's mansion was much livelier. After all, Zhu Ting'an held the title of Regent, so it was only natural that all the court officials in the capital would attend. Not only did the officials come, but the young emperor also made an appearance. The young emperor, named Zhu Di, was lifted by the scruff of his neck by Zhu Ting'an and placed on the throne at the age of 3, after 12 years of torment. He was now exactly 15 years old. Zhu Di was the least favored among the late emperor's sons. If it weren't for Zhu Ting'an's patricide, he would have been doomed to execution in this lifetime. Thus, the young emperor held immense respect for his elder brother, Zhu Ting'an. From the moment he laid eyes on Zhu Ting'an, Zhu Di's gaze clung to him like silk threads. Though he was the emperor, and it should have been Zhu Tingen serving him tea. The young emperor lowered his own status and instead offered tea to Zhu Tingen. Zhu Tingen's expression immediately darkened, and he rebuked in a low voice, "All the officials are present. Why must your majesty demean yourself like this?" Yet Zhu Di remained beaming with joy. "Today is elder brother's wedding day. The eldest brother is like a father. This tea, you truly deserve it." Zhu Tingen's expression softened a little. After all, he had raised the young emperor himself. And his gaze toward him grew somewhat gentler. I, however, sneered inwardly, staring at the young emperor's neck and wondering how much strength it would take to snap it. Night fell, and the red candles flickered in the bridal chamber. Zhu Tingen entered the room reeking of alcohol. He dismissed the maids and nannies, then used his 2-meter-long broadsword to lift my red bridal veil. "You were quite impressive tonight." I wiped the sticky lip rouge from my mouth, tugged Zhu Tingen off balance, and he stumbled to my side, his head resting right on my shoulder. "Your Highness, this is the military deployment map of Longnan. Do you have enough men to wipe them out in one go?" The candlelight flickered in the wind, and the shadow cast on the map wavered along with it. Zhu Tingen leaned against my shoulder, staring at the map for a long time without speaking. It was only after a long while that he finally spoke. "Are you serious? I found the phoenix crown on my head too heavy." So I casually pulled out a few hairpins, placed the crown on the table, and turned to look at Zhu Tingen. "Your Highness spent 8 years in the Western Liang Kingdom. Without my grandfather's help, you would have died there long ago. Let's speak frankly, compared to the Western Sea's cold-hearted persecution, don't you want to avenge this humiliation? Now the young emperor is gradually gaining power. The Empress Dowager is in good health and has the support of the Longnan Marquis. With the reputation of a patricide, you can only hold the position of regent, but this regency might barely be acceptable while the emperor is young. Once he comes of age, will there still be a place for you in the court? The officials may not say it openly, but behind your back, who doesn't whisper that you are a villain who killed his own father and sovereign? The moment the young emperor grasps real power, the first person he will eliminate is you. His own brother who has assisted him for over a decade. I lifted Zhu Tingen's chin, a smile playing at the corners of my lips. "Your Highness, are you content?" Zhu Tingen's gaze was deep and unfathomable as he let me hold his chin, his voice hoarse from drink. "Jiang Qingye, your audacity surpasses even that of your legitimate elder sister. Does your Highness regret it? Marrying Jiang Yuhe would have allowed you to indulge in revelry and merriment day and night. With me, I fear your Highness will have to live in constant apprehension from now on." Zhu Tingen curved his lips into a smile, the back of his middle finger stroking my cheek, rubbing it back and forth. "That's what makes it interesting, isn't it?" The next day, I supported my waist and fiercely pounded the bed. "Last night, I thought, since we would be allies in the future, I might as well give him some sweetness first." Little did I expect that this old man, having his first taste of meat, would actually keep at it all night long. If it weren't for my martial arts training since childhood and my strong physique, with his seemingly endless energy, I probably wouldn't have made it past midnight before joining my mother in the afterlife. Thinking of my rebellious ambitions, I got up, put on my clothes, and firmly planted myself in a horse stance on the spot, vigorously stretching my waist. Whoa, another day of striving for excellence. The courtyard of the prince's residence is vast, and the one directly opposite the main gate is even larger. I had noticed during my fight with Zhu Tingen that there were many weapons there, but it was only today that I realized it was actually the prince's military training ground. The guards were lined up, training under the command of Zhu Tingen's personal attendant, Xiao Qi. I stood with my arms crossed, watching for a while, and felt that the intensity was far from enough. "What are you doing? Just fooling around? Is squatting in a horse stance and poking with spears what you call martial arts training?" Xiao Qi saw me and came running over with fawning enthusiasm. "Hey, second Miss Jiang is up. Oh, look at my mouth. The princess consort is awake. Did you sleep well last night? Are you used to it? If there's anything you're not satisfied with, you must tell me. I'll make sure everything is arranged perfectly for you." I didn't respond, casually pulling out the whip tucked behind my waist, and without a word, lashed it toward the guards. Although there were many of these guards, they were only good at fighting in groups. Their individual skills were lacking, and not a single one dared to block the whip. "If you don't give it your all today, Don't blame me for being ruthless. Half an hour later, looking at the guards lying on the ground grimacing in pain, I was far from satisfied. No wonder Zhu Tingen hasn't rebelled, with a bunch of good-for-nothings like these. When will he ever ascend to the throne? Starting tomorrow, you'll train here at dawn. I'll check your progress every 3 days. Anyone who shows no improvement for 2 consecutive rounds will be kicked out of the prince's residence. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I raised my hand and snapped the tree in the middle of the estate as thick as an arm, then turned and strode out of the mansion. Xiao Qi stared at me dumbfounded, his legs trembling. Later, rumors spread in the capital that on the wedding night, the Prince Regent seemed incapable, and the second Miss Jiang, unsatisfied, took her anger out on the guards of the royal residence. Riffraff, I found Jiang Yuhe at the brothel, who had been drinking all night. At that moment, she looked exactly like a woman abandoned by her husband, sobbing her heart out in the arms of a voluptuous beauty. My husband, how could you pass away so young? I haven't even married you yet. How could you be gone? The beauty must have been new here, taken in by Jiang Yue's act, patting her back with a deeply moved expression. Miss Jiang, please don't cry anymore. Your weeping is breaking my heart. Who in this world could be as pitiful as you? Childhood sweethearts for over a decade, you waited faithfully in the capital for your betrothed, only for him to fall in battle, never to return. What a tragic pair of lovebirds. Jiang Yuhe vigorously rubbed the beauty's ample bosom, unleashing another wave of wretched sobs. My husband Tilda, enough. I tugged on Jiang Yue's hair, but she didn't even turn her head, continuing to feel the beauty's ample bosom. Growing impatient, I lifted my leg and gave her a kick. The beauty wasn't having it. Suddenly standing up and declaring with righteous indignation, "Who do you think you are? Have you no sympathy? Can't you see she's grieving the loss of her fiancé?" The beauty spoke while wiping away tears, carefully patted Jiang Yuhe, who looked back at me in confusion, and whispered soothingly, "It's none of your business. You can keep crying." I snorted coldly, picked up a chair, and sat down with an imposing manner. Unfortunately, I am the wife that her recently deceased fiancé just married yesterday. The beauty frowned and was stunned for a long moment without reacting, but Jiang Yuhe was quicker to respond. She wiped her tears and waved her hand at the beauty. "You don't need to stay with me. Go and rest. I'll call for you again tonight." The beauty walked away in a daze, as if still trying to figure out who I really was. "How was your day yesterday?" Jiang Yuhe leaned in, staring between my legs with a suggestive look. I gritted my teeth. Better to die than live like this. Jiang Yuhe shook her head after hearing this. "The Regent is no good, all brute force. No skill. No wonder you're not enjoying it." Then she asked me, "Little sister, do you want to feel good? I have plenty of experience and can teach you." I raised my hand to block her face and firmly refused. "No need. Beauty leads one astray, better not to learn." Jiang Yuhe poured a cup of tea and handed it to me. "Sister, your voice is hoarse from shouting. Have a sip to soothe your throat. In 10 days, it will be the young emperor's birthday. The Marquis of Longnan is bringing his heir to the capital to offer congratulations. I plan to have Zhu Tingen take advantage of his absence and raid his stronghold." Clatter. The teacup Jiang Yuhe had just brought to her lips fell to the ground. She grabbed my hand, her face pale with shock. "Don't do that. We're living just fine. Why must you insist on courting death?" I gave Jiang Yuhe a reassuring glance. "Don't be afraid, nothing will happen. If anything does happen, it'll be Zhu Tingen who gets executed. It has nothing to do with us." Thinking back to the latter half of last night, when I set aside half a lifetime of dignity to beg him, saying I really couldn't take it anymore, and how he responded, "Jiang Qingye, this is only the beginning. Just take your time and enjoy it. Damn it. This guy is clearly doing it on purpose." The whole night, he tormented me to the point of agony, my body feeling as if it had been trampled and crushed by 8 horses back and forth. At dawn, he actually had the nerve to ask me if it was exciting. Exciting. He's got exciting days ahead of him. I curled my lips into a smile and leaned close to Jiang Yuhe's ear, whispering a string of words. "Will this work?" Jiang Yuhe vigorously rubbed her full, round chest, her ears turning slightly red as she covered her mouth and giggled stealthily. "It'll work. Men, after all, love to show off." In the latter half of the day, Jiang Yuhe and I held a pre-victory celebration for the upcoming triumph. We booked a brothel and drank ourselves into a stupor with a group of buxom beauties. When the sky grew so dark that the moon was no longer visible, Zhu Ting'an arrived. He stormed in with a group of bruised and battered guards. Kicking open the tightly shut doors of the brothel, they quickly surrounded us, and a 2-meter-long broadsword was pointed at Jiang Yuhe, who had been persistently urging me to embrace the beauties. Jiang Yuhe was so frightened that her face turned pale. Sure. The beauty who had accompanied Jiang Yuhe all night had already formed a deep bond with her in just one night, while the other beauties were stepping back and crouching in the corner with their heads in their hands. She bravely rushed forward to shield Jiang Yuhe, stammering as she asked Zhu Ting'an, You, who are you? How dare you point a sword at someone? Don't think you can bully her just because her husband is dead. There's still law and order under the emperor's rule. Zhu Ting'an's dark expression faltered for a moment upon hearing her husband is dead, then he pressed the sword against the beauty with an impassive face. The beauty and Jiang Yuhe clung to each other, trembling all over in fear. Jiang Yuhe, in particular, had lost all traces of her earlier carefree, pleasure-seeking demeanor. She kept shielding her chest and, just to be safe, even buried herself in the beauty's embrace, her head resting against the beauty's waist as she trembled rhythmically all over. I was also a bit drunk. Seeing Zhu Ting'an's gloomy face, I chuckled foolishly and lunged at him with a wine jug in hand. Zhu Ting'an caught me with one hand. His gaze towards Jiang Yuhe filled with a heavy killing intent. Who is he? He is Jiang Yuhe's deceased fiancé, the husband I just married yesterday. The beauty's face turned pale. Jiang Yuhe scrambled back under the bed, the entire frame shaking uncontrollably. No, I don't have a husband. I was just making it up. Don't chop my chest. Zhu Ting'an was a man with a very narrow mind. Just the mention of a deceased fiancé made his knife tremble with rage. Since Miss Jiang is so deeply devoted to her deceased fiancé, tonight I shall grant your wish and send you down to reunite with him. No, Jiang Yuhe screamed frantically, crouching under the bed and bowing repeatedly like a little dog. Having seen enough of the commotion, I reached out and hooked my arm around Zhu Ting'an's neck, snuggling closer into his embrace. Your Highness, I'm drunk, I want to sleep, given Zhu Ting'an's usual inhuman nature. I thought this scoundrel would surely throw a few sarcastic remarks my way, then unceremoniously shove me to the ground to take the opportunity to humiliate me. Yet he merely glanced down at me, then gently uttered an sheathed his sword, scooped me up in his arms, and said to Jiang Yuhe, Your wretched life. I'll take it next time, Your Highness. He led a crowd of people noisily back to the prince's residence. You enjoy visiting brothels. What's so good about those women, vulgar and gaudy, reeking of suffocating makeup? Just the smell makes me want to vomit. Zhu Ting'an forcefully placed me on the bed, scolding me while wetting a cloth to wipe my face and hands. How could it be choking? It's clearly fragrant, I mumbled in reply, and as soon as I raised my hand, Zhu Ting'an pressed it back down firmly. Don't move, you reek of alcohol. I'll wipe your body for you, with last night's experience. Zhu Ting'an undressed me with ease. In no time, he had stripped me completely bare. Under the dim light, Zhu Ting'an's gaze fell on me without any reservation. He wiped me inch by inch with a cloth, carefully, as if polishing a priceless treasure. I find him really strange. He's the most arrogant and impatient person, yet now he's actually willing to do something like wiping a woman's body. Zhu Ting'an, have you looked at the defense map of Longnan? Can you really take it down? Zhu Ting'an was wiping my slender waist, his voice noticeably hoarse. I was overjoyed. Really? Can it be done? My waist felt a bit itchy, and I couldn't help but squirm. Zhu Ting'an's expression darkened even more. Stop squirming. You can do that later. Who wants to wait until later? The thought of soon conquering Longnan and seeing the king of Longnan in utter misery made me giggle uncontrollably. Zhu Ting'an stared fixedly at me. Jiang Qingye. Do you need to be taught a lesson? I turned away with a smile, not wanting to engage with him, and hugged the brocade quilt, ready to sleep. But suddenly, the bed sank behind me, and the next moment, I was lifted and pressed onto Zhu Ting'an's body. I want to sleep. Zhu Ting'an tore off his clothes without hesitation, kissing me fiercely and urgently. I suddenly remembered the night Zhu Ting'an was drugged. in the first half of the night, we were genuinely fighting, but by the second half, Zhu Ting'an seemed a bit distracted. While fighting me, he tried to negotiate. Jiang Qingye, can we take this fight to the bed? I sternly refused at the time. With my martial arts skills and such powerful techniques, how could I possibly show them off without enough space? What dreams could one have in that tiny space of a bed? Zhu Ting'an coaxed me persuasively. Fighting in the courtyard may offer more space, but fighting on the bed has its own unique pleasures. Would I believe that? So, I struck with even more ferocity, each move aimed directly at the vital points. Looking back now, I was still foolish that night. I actually didn't understand the meaning behind his words. Kissed by Zhu Ting'an, I felt feverish, as if I were a dry tea cake, steeped in boiling water, slowly floating and unfurling. The damp, lingering touch was like the ebb and flow of the tide. With the rhythm of breathing, the waves beat against the shore, seeping in little by little until completely soaked. The dry sand overflowing with the scent of the sea, the silent night outside the window was shaken into thick ink. On the night of Zhu Di's birthday, the palace held a grand banquet. Unsurprisingly, the young prince of Longnan, Yelu Qingsu, got drunk and went wild, speaking disrespectfully to Zhu Ting'an. I've heard the regent is first-rate at hitting women. Would you care to spar with me tonight? The words were so abrupt that even Zhu Ting'an, who was accustomed to major storms and waves, was stunned for a moment. Hit women? Zhu Ting'an glanced at me sideways and lowered his voice. Besides fighting with you, when have I ever fought a woman? He wants to stand up for you. What gives him the right? I silently drank a cup of wine. Could it be that you've stirred up some romantic trouble out there? Zhu Ting'an laughed in anger. He licked his lips, his whole aura turning a bit sinister, and actually drew his sword and leaped to the center of the hall. He was already standing in the center before his words drifted lightly into my ears. Jiang Qingye, it better have nothing to do with you, or else, I will kill him tonight. Watching Zhu Ting'an's retreating figure, I couldn't help but feel so excited that my eyes gleamed. Kill him, kill him, kill him, and then take down Longnan, and the throne will be within reach. The two in the center of the hall fought with remarkable ease, not even exchanging a single unnecessary word. I was well aware of Zhu Ting'an's prowess, and Yelu Qingsu was no pushover either. This dog was trained by barbarians. His movements appeared slow but were extremely vicious. If struck by one of his punches, one would be bedridden for at least half a month. Seeing Yelu Qingsu's arrogant demeanor, I couldn't help but recall the profound humiliation I suffered in Longnan all those years ago. My teeth are itching with hatred. By the age of 16, I had already mastered my skills. Combined with the recklessness of youth, the first thing that came to mind was revenge. Taking advantage of the day my father followed the young emperor in fasting, I disguised myself as a man and rode swiftly to Longnan. Upon learning that the prince of Longnan had only one son, Yelu Qingsu, I planned to kill him to make the prince taste the bitterness of losing a loved one. The people of Longnan said that Yelu Qingsu was extremely arrogant and lecherous, having already killed a maid in his household at the age of 11 or 12. Later, his debauchery grew even more extreme, to the point where he would brazenly assault young girls he saw on the streets. At first, I felt somewhat reluctant to kill Yelu Qingsu, as his father's wrongdoings had little to do with him. But after hearing all this, the last trace of my reluctance vanished. The son of a beast is still a beast, and all of them deserve to die. I was lying in ambush in the alley outside where Yelu Qingsu was drinking and carousing, waiting until the third watch drum sounded before I saw the ox-like Yelu Qingsu stagger out of the brothel. Just then, a young girl happened to get up to use the restroom. As she was about to enter the door, Yelu Qingsu pinned her to the ground. The girl cried her heart out, waking up many neighbors and her parents. Her father came out of the small house with a stick, shouting, and the neighbors also came out with tools to help. But when they met Yelu Qingsu's gloomy eyes, everyone fell silent as if their throats had been choked, and they quietly closed their doors. In an instant, the entire alley fell into dead silence. The girl stopped crying and lay on the ground like a corpse. The girl's slender body was pinned beneath him, as fragile as a withering Bauhinia flower. I pressed myself against the wall, my whole body trembling. The scene before my eyes began to overlap with the images in my mind, and anger and despair surged to the top of my skull. Why are people always so indifferent? willing to abandon even their dearest loved ones in the face of power. This world is unjust, and I do not like it. The blade unsheathed, I leaped from the wall, the sword's edge heading straight for Yelu Qingsu's neck. Kill him. Make him die. That was the only thought in my mind at that moment. But those trained in martial arts from a young age are often sharp-witted. Even though Yelu Qingsu had drunk quite a bit, at the brink of life and death, he still erupted with a fierce will to survive. He almost immediately flipped over, holding the girl in front of him to block my oncoming blade. Bastard! In the pitch-black and silent alley, after fighting with Yelu Qingsu for a quarter of an hour, I gradually fell into a disadvantage. He was very strong. That was the first time I realized the gap between us. If it weren't for his drunkenness, if it weren't for the darkness of the night, I probably wouldn't have made it back alive that night. In the latter half of the fight, Yelu Qingsu pinned me under his foot. He kicked my shoulder hard, and I heard the sound of bones breaking, but I just stubbornly stared back at him. You're asking for death. I will kill you sooner or later. Yelu Qingsu threw his head back and laughed, then raised his foot to deliver a fatal blow to me. I ran, seizing that brief moment, and vanished like a ghost into the empty streets. That time, when I returned home, I lay in bed for a full half-month. As soon as I recovered, I doubled my martial arts training, not daring to slack off even a single day. I was stubborn as an ox in my thoughts of revenge, spending my days either practicing martial arts or sparring with others. My father thought I had gone mad, while Jiang Yuhe believed it was because I had too much energy from lacking a man. While I was training, she would rest her chin in her hands, munching on a peach, and ask me, "Sister, aren't you tired? Can't you take a break?" Taking a break isn't out of the question. But it's just not the right time yet. In the center of the grand hall, Zhu Tingen and Yelu Qingsu were locked in a fierce battle. Although Zhu Tingen was slimmer than Yelu Qingsu, their combat skills were evenly matched. After nearly half an hour of fighting, he still seemed to be holding his own with ease. Thinking back to myself a few years ago, I believe I could now hold my own against Yelu Qingsu as well. I clenched my fists, looking past Yelu Qingsu at the Marquis of Longnan behind him. The Marquis of Longnan was over 50 but still robust and vigorous. He drank wine proudly while watching his son, exuding an undisguised sense of satisfaction, perhaps sensing my gaze. The Marquis of Longnan narrowed his eyes and looked toward me. I tried my best to keep my expression unreadable. The Marquis of Longnan curled his lips into a smile, his eyes filled with undisguised amusement. His gaze was like that of a man looking at a naked woman, as if he might pin her down at any moment. On the other side, the contest between Zhu Tingen and Yelu Qingsu was also gradually reaching a conclusion. Yelu Qingsu's martial arts were indeed superior, but his body was too heavy. And as the fight dragged on, he began to pant heavily. In contrast, Zhu Tingen remained calm and composed, until his broadsword pointed directly at Yelu Qingsu's neck, and the great hall fell silent in an instant. Yelu Qingsu stared at the tip of the blade, his eyes filled with unwillingness, while the Marquis of Longnan's face instantly darkened, and he slammed his wine cup heavily onto the table. "Young master, I concede," before Yelu Qingsu could speak. Zhu Tingen sheathed his blade and turned to walk toward me. Compared to Yelu Qingsu, Zhu Tingen was truly open and unguarded. He actually dared to expose his back so casually to Yelu Qingsu. Zhu Tingen was utterly unaware of his shamelessness. When Yelu Qingsu's hidden weapon shot toward Zhu Tingen, given the short distance, Zhu Tingen absolutely couldn't dodge it. I hesitated for a moment between saving him or not. If I don't save him, the current regent would die from Yelu Qingsu's surprise attack, which would hardly be a good story to spread. Moreover, Zhu Tingen is a member of the royal family, and killing a royal is a crime punishable by the extermination of one's entire clan. Saving him doesn't offer much benefit either. After all, up to now, I haven't seen any signs of Zhu Tingen intending to overthrow Longnan or usurp the throne. Sometimes, people can be truly strange. Reason comes first. And you clearly know what you should do, but when impulse takes over, your hands and feet seem to disobey. My foot moved faster than my thoughts, and the whip lashed out swiftly. Just as the hidden weapon was about to pierce Zhu Tingen's flesh, the whip seemed to develop a mind of its own, coiling fiercely and flinging it away. Unfortunately, it ended up striking a man standing behind the Prince of Longnan. Everything happened so quickly that everyone was caught off guard. It wasn't until the man collapsed to the ground, bleeding from all 7 orifices and convulsing all over, that everyone realized Yelu Qingsu had intended to kill Zhu Tingen. For a moment, the atmosphere in the grand hall sank to a new low. What is the meaning of this, young lord? It was just a sparring match, there was no need to resort to killing. The ministers present today are all shrewd individuals. The Marquis of Longnan, being the Empress Dowager's own brother, has an immeasurable future ahead, while Zhu Tingen, who murdered his own father, is a despicable man whose fate goes without saying. At this moment, no one would dare to stand up for him. Admittedly, my father has always been a timid and cautious old man, but his strong patriotic sentiments got the better of him, and he actually dared to openly embarrass the Marquis of Longnan. The Marquis of Longnan let out a cold "Ha, sir, it is indeed a spar, but since it is voluntary, life and death are a matter of fate, and each must rely on their own abilities." My father was so furious that his beard trembled. He rose to his feet, knelt before the hall, and said with a cupped hand salute, "Your Majesty, I believe it is inappropriate. The Regent is both a pillar of our court and your Majesty's own brother." The young prince first spoke disrespectfully and then launched a surprise attack in public, showing no reverence for the royal family and no regard for human life. "I implore your Majesty to punish the young prince." Zhu Di looked at Yelu Qingsu with an expression of anger. The young prince has indeed gone too far. Yelu Qingsu did not evade responsibility and immediately knelt to the ground. "Since childhood, I followed my father in military campaigns, and on the battlefield, I adhered to the principle that all is fair in war, which allowed me to achieve remarkable victories repeatedly. Today, out of habit, I momentarily overstepped my bounds. It is my fault, and I beg your Majesty to punish me." The Prince of Longnan holds military power and has indeed won many battles against overwhelming odds. Bringing this up now, many ministers began to echo in agreement. "Indeed, the Prince of Longnan has devoted himself entirely to our dynasty. The young heir is still immature, and it's only natural for him to be competitive at times. Indeed, the Regent is considered a senior to the young prince, so he naturally wouldn't hold a grudge over a martial arts spar. Besides, didn't the princess consort just intercept that hidden weapon? The one who died was the strategist from the Prince of Longnan's side. If we really want to settle this, it's the Prince of Longnan who's at a disadvantage." The Prince of Longnan looked smug, quite pleased with the current situation. He rose slowly and cupped his hands in a salute, saying, "Your Majesty, this strategist of mine has been a loyal servant for decades, contributing to every remarkable achievement. Now that he has been so easily killed by the princess consort, if no explanation is given, I fear the soldiers of Longnan will not stand for it." The hall grew even more lively, with everyone talking over each other, and it seemed all the blame was on me. Zhu Tingen remained calm and composed, glanced at me, and leisurely sipped his tea. He wasn't in a hurry, and neither was I. After all, I was trying to save him. I refused to believe he would act so heartless. While we were both unhurried, my foolish old father grew anxious. He kowtowed 3 times with a thud, his words tumbling out faster than before. "Your Majesty, the situation was critical just now. If the princess consort hadn't intervened, would the Regent even be alive? As for the unintentional killing of the military strategist, that can only be considered accidental harm. I beg your Majesty to investigate with clarity." Zhu Di looked somewhat troubled. After all, he was still young, and many matters had previously been handled by Zhu Tingen. With Zhu Tingen now silent, he felt at a loss. He remained silent. But the Empress Dowager spoke up. The woman snorted lightly and splashed a cup of tea toward my father, the steam rising in a mist. "Minister Jiang, what a light and careless accidental injury. With just one accidental injury from your daughter, our Western Sea Kingdom has lost a military strategist. If enemy nations invade in the future, will you, Minister Jiang, take up the role of strategist, or will your daughter do it?" My father was stunned. As a censor, he was skilled in presenting facts but not in sophistry. Coupled with his somewhat timid nature, he was left speechless at that moment. The Empress Dowager sneered and turned her gaze to Zhu Di. "Your Majesty, you must give an explanation of what is more important and what is less. Otherwise, if the soldiers are unsettled, the nation will be unstable." My father grew fearful again. He kowtowed heavily and said, If your highness insists on an explanation, this old minister is willing to accept punishment on behalf of the princess consort. The princess is my daughter, and it is my failure in teaching her properly. The child's fault is the father's responsibility. I am willing to atone with my death. I paused and looked at the old man. Since I was young, the old man had never been particularly close to me. Compared to me, he always favored Jiang Yuhe more. He often said, "If you insist on courting death, go die on your own. Your sister is pure-hearted, do not drag her down with you." In my heart, the old man was timid, cowardly, and afraid of trouble, the kind who cherished his life the most. Today, however, he truly surprised me. I set down my cup, preparing to kneel. I was the one who killed him. If Zhu Ting'an didn't intervene on my behalf, then I deserved to die. Just as I rose to my feet, Zhu Ting'an, who had remained silent all this time, finally spoke. Just now, the Marquis of Longnan said that the previous remarkable achievements were all the work of this military strategist. The Empress Dowager also said that since the strategist is now dead, it will be difficult to resist future foreign enemies, so an explanation must be given to the soldiers. The Empress Dowager sneered. Exactly, the regent is the most impartial. Having assisted in governance for many years, he certainly won't let personal feelings interfere with public duty. Indeed, Zhu Ting'an rose to his feet and looked at Zhu Di. This matter is simple. I have a solution. Would your majesty like to hear it? Zhu Di straightened his posture and spoke with great respect. Please speak, imperial brother. Most of Longnan Wang's military achievements were accomplished by his strategist, which shows that Longnan Wang has little real ability. Now that the strategist is dead, he can no longer defend against external enemies. Since that is the case, and I happen to be skilled in leading troops, why not transfer Longnan Wang's military authority to me? I have no need for a military advisor. Even without one, I can still defend against foreign enemies. Is the matter of the military advisor settled? Upon hearing this, the faces of the Empress Dowager and the Prince of Longnan's faction turned pale. Zhu Ting'an then added coldly, "Now that the matter of the military advisor is settled, let's discuss the issue between me and the heir. In terms of kinship, I am the biological son of the late emperor and the full brother of the current emperor. The heir is merely a relative by marriage. How can he be compared to me? As for official rank, I am the foremost regent of the court. Holding a position above the Marquis of Longnan, Yelu Qingsu is merely an heir who hasn't even inherited his father's title, yet he dares to plot against me. I have always been a man of small tolerance. If it hadn't been my consort who intervened earlier, the one who died wouldn't have been just a mere military advisor." Zhu Ting'an's gaze fell upon the Marquis of Longnan, his eyes brimming with undisguised killing intent. "If the Marquis of Longnan does not give me a satisfactory answer today, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to leave the capital." The situation had suddenly reversed. The previously smug expression on the Marquis of Longnan's face now showed a hint of unease. Zhu Ting'an was a man of profound cunning. On the surface, he appeared frivolous and idle, but as someone who dared to kill his own father and seize power, no one knew just how much confidence he truly had behind the scenes. The Prince of Longnan has only come to the capital to celebrate the birthday, without bringing any troops. If Zhu Ting'an truly wants to kill him, it's not simple, but it's not too difficult either. After weighing the pros and cons, the Prince of Longnan burst into laughter. He stood up, raised his wine cup, and kicked the wide-eyed, breathless strategist away. "Ah, the regent must be joking. Just now, I was merely jesting. Today is the emperor's birthday, and we are here to enjoy ourselves. This lowly wretch died because his fate was thin. He deserved to die today. To die by the princess consort's hand is an honor that his ancestors would be proud of. Let's not mention this matter anymore. Let's drink, let's drink." The Prince of Longnan held his cup very low, his demeanor equally humble, but Zhu Ting'an was not one to be easily appeased. He lounged lazily against the backrest, tapping the table rhythmically with his hand, watching the Prince of Longnan in silence. Under that gaze, the Prince of Longnan began to sweat on his forehead, and he glanced toward the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager, too, had lost her earlier arrogance and joined in with a forced laugh. "Come, I also offer a toast to the regent. The younger generation is impolite. Let us not stoop to their level." Zhu Ting'an still didn't move, tilting his head to ask me, Have you vented your anger?" At these words, everyone looked at me. To be honest, in this situation, even Jiang Yuhe, that shameless green TB*TCH, would surely take the opportunity to say, "I'm not angry," but I couldn't. I looked at Zhu Ting'an and spoke, not too quietly. "He just tried to kill you, then he wanted to kill me, and later he even thought of killing my father. This anger I cannot swallow." Zhu Ting'an gave a low hum and fell silent, continuing to gaze deeply at the Prince of Longnan with his profound eyes. After watching for what felt like the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, the Prince of Longnan could no longer hold his ground. He picked up a whip as thick as a wrist and began lashing Yelu Qingsu fiercely, making him howl in agony. "You worthless scum, you just had to insist on a sparring match. I think you're itching for a beating. Will you still dare to spar in the future?" "Dad, I won't dare anymore. I won't dare. I won't ever dare again. I'll make sure you don't dare. Today, I'm going to beat you to death, so you won't cause trouble and drag me down with you in the future." Dad, it hurts so much." By the time we returned to the prince's mansion, it was already past midnight. After washing up, I sat on the bed wringing my hair dry. Zhu Ting'an, bare-chested, sat down beside me, under the dim yellow light. He looked at me with a straightforward gaze. "Do you have a grudge against the Prince of Longnan?" My hand paused. "Why do you say that? Yelu Qingsu has only been in the capital for 3 days. Before this, we had no interaction. Why did you come at me so aggressively for a sparring match right from the start?" I gave a non-committal hum, not intending to hide anything. "He fell for Jiang Yuhe at first sight. She came crying and said you bullied her. That fool drank too much and wanted to stand up for her." Zhu Ting'an laughed in disbelief. "To make me turn against him, you two sisters really went to great lengths." I put down the handkerchief and looked directly at Zhu Ting'an. "If I hadn't gone to great lengths, how would I have gotten the military deployment map of Longnan?" "Zhu Ting'an, I wasn't joking when I said I wanted you to destroy Longnan." Zhu Ting'an glanced at me and leaned back onto the bed. "Over the past few years, you've been going to the prince's mansion every now and then, always carrying the Longnan blueprints. Every time he changes his defense layout, you quickly get your hands on the new version. Jiang Qingye, as a woman confined to the inner chambers, where on earth are you getting these defense maps? Don't worry about that. In any case, they're all real. It's just that I don't have any troops. If my father had soldiers at his command, I wouldn't have to come begging for your help day after day." "Fine, if you want me to help you, you'll have to give me a reason. You've lived in the capital since childhood, while the Prince of Longnan has been stationed 1,000 miles away for the past 20 or 30 years. What grudge do you hold against him? What grudge do you have?" "The murder of my mother." "My mother was not from the Western Sea. Her maternal family was from the Kingdom of Shiliang. In the beginning, the Kingdom of Shiliang was powerful. So the Western Sea sent a hostage and offered gold, silver, and jewels to Shiliang. Back when the Empress Dowager was favored, the late emperor infected her brother, Yelu Zong, as a regional lord. Yelu Zong was different from previous generals. He was ruthless, and even after winning battles, he would pursue and massacre entire cities. After reclaiming several small states, he turned his spearhead toward the Kingdom of Shiliang. The Kingdom of Shiliang was defeated. The late emperor had a fondness for beautiful women, and to consolidate her position, the Empress Dowager had Yelu Zong plunder the kingdom for beauties on a large scale. My mother was one of them. My mother was very beautiful. She was the youngest daughter of the Grand Tutor of Shiliang and had grown up with the Crown Prince of Shiliang. The two were betrothed and were only 10 days away from their wedding, but before she could be married off, Yelu Zong's army had already overrun the capital. The common people were either killed, enslaved, or forced into military brothels. The Crown Prince was shot to death by a hail of arrows and hung on the city wall, and my mother became one of the tributes selected by Yelu Zong. The journey was long, and before they had even traveled halfway, Yelu Zong developed lustful intentions toward my mother. Once, while drunk, he stormed into the tent where the tributes were kept, dragged my mother out from among the women, and violated her, leaving her covered in blood. Such incidents happened many times along the way. By the time they reached the capital, she was already 3 months pregnant. After entering the capital, Yelu Zong presented the women to the Empress Dowager for her inspection. She took a liking to my mother at first glance. But unfortunately, my mother, suffering from morning sickness, unintentionally retched. The Empress Dowager was furious, scolding Yeluzong a few times. Then ordered my mother to be dragged out and beaten to death with clubs. The place where they met at that time was the court of Imperial Stud, and my father was still an obscure minor clerk there. When Yeluzong was beating my mother, he was hiding in the stable feeding the horses. Yeluzong was ruthless and his lust remained unchanged. He dragged my mother to the backyard and went to pull down her pants. What a pity. It's your own fault for getting pregnant. I'll be kind to you one last time, so you can die in comfort. My mother was so nauseous she couldn't stop vomiting, which killed Yeluzong's mood, and he went mad, kicking and beating her. You little slut, how dare you vomit? How dare you vomit? I'll beat you to death. Only when my mother fell silent did he straighten his clothes and look up, only to unfortunately spot my father. My father knelt down in fear, terrified that he might implicate himself, and kowtowed repeatedly. Yeluzong was a born villain. He grabbed my father by the back of his neck and asked, "Were you peeking just now?" My father shook his head frantically. No, really not. I didn't see anything at all." Yeluzong laughed heartily, spreading his legs and pointing at his crotch. "Come on. Crawl through, and I'll spare your life. I'll even give you a gift." My father crawled. He was a spineless man. Compared to survival, dignity meant nothing. After he crawled over, Yeluzong kicked him into the stable, pointed at my mother on the ground, and said, "This worthless thing is yours now. Whether you drag her to the mass grave or take her home to warm your bed, it's up to you." That was the first time my father had seen a dead person. He was terrified out of his wits, but didn't dare disobey, so he found a sack, loaded it onto a horse, and headed for the mass grave. My mother woke up halfway there. She cried and begged my father for a long time before he finally gritted his teeth, dressed a corpse at the mass grave in her clothes, and secretly brought her home. My sister was truly blessed with a strong will to live. Even after Yeluzong dealt such a merciless blow, she still survived. Later, my father and my mother got together. Perhaps it was because they grew fond of each other over time, or perhaps it was because my mother was truly beautiful. In any case, they started a small family. My father adored my sister dearly, feeling that she had suffered too much. She was nearly beaten to death by her own father while still in the womb, and after she was born, my mother had lost the will to live, so she couldn't even get a drop of milk. My father would cook millet porridge to feed her. She was so thin, just skin and bones, and always longed for her mother to hold her, but my mother never held her, even loathed and detested her. Later, when I was born, my mother began to show a bit of a motherly side. She would hold me, soothe me to sleep, and sing lullabies to me. When I was a bit older, my sister would take advantage of the night when mother was asleep, sit by the bed, and ask mother why she didn't like her. In my memory, during the day, my sister didn't dare get close to mother. She would always hide in a corner like a little puppy, looking at mother pitifully, wanting to approach but not daring to. Mother would ignore her, her gaze toward her extremely cold. He was as cold as if he were looking through her at someone else. Mother's health began to deteriorate, sleeping more and more each day. Drowsy and muddled, she would often cry out in her sleep, "Don't touch me, don't touch me," with tears streaming down her face. That year, I was 6 years old. On a stormy night with thunder and rain, mother told me she was unwilling to accept her fate. If heaven truly had eyes, she hoped Yeluzong would die a miserable death. The next day, she passed away. That year, father had already become a censor. Over the years, he had worked hard, hoping to provide a better life for the family. Seeing mother's eyes still open at the moment of her death, he asked me, "Did your mother say anything?" I shook my head and only said, "Father, I want to learn martial arts." After mother's death, under father's careful care, my sister began to grow more optimistic. Without mother's cold, hateful gaze scrutinizing her every day, her girlish nature slowly began to show. "Sister, isn't it nice to dress up and look beautiful with makeup? Why do you always look like you're about to dig up someone's ancestral grave every day?" I looked at Jiang Yuhe, who knew nothing about hatred, and patted her head. "Not only will I dig up their ancestral grave, but I'll also grind their bones to dust." Jiang Yuhe was stunned and grabbed my hand to try to persuade me. "Qingye, you mustn't kill anyone. All right, your sister hasn't had her fill of good days yet. You can't bring harm upon me." I looked at Jiang Yuhe without speaking, but in my heart I thought, how could I ever harm you? Avenging you all has been my obsession for years. Mother was unwilling to let it go, and so was I. Jiang Yuhe suffered for so many years because of it, and mother endured torment for just as long. This debt must be settled by someone, after all. So, you chose to marry me. I looked at Zhu Ting'an and shook my head honestly. No, I didn't plan to marry you. Marrying you was for Jiang Yuhe's sake. She drugged you. And you wanted to kill her. I thought if I married you, she would be considered your family, and you probably wouldn't insist on killing her. Zhu Ting'an held his forehead and stayed silent for a long while. After a moment, he looked up and asked me seriously, Jiang Qingye, tell me the truth. Do you have even a little bit of liking for me? I nodded. If you can help me take down the Marquis of Longnan, my feelings for you would definitely be more than just a little. Zhu Ting'an's mouth twitched, and he sighed as he lay back, muttering to himself, all these years, I thought you were playing some clever game of playing hard to get. But it turns out you really just see me as a tool. How unfortunate. I didn't hear clearly, so I leaned my ear closer. What are you mumbling? Zhu Ting'an suddenly sat up straight, turned over, and pinned me beneath him, pressing his face close to mine as he said, never mind, you're already married to me. Even if you don't like it now, you will in the future. Anyway, you can't escape. Let's sleep first and talk later. The Marquis of Longnan left the capital almost in a hurry. How fast did he run? That foolish son of his was so busy that he didn't even have time to see Jiang Yuhe, and just rode off on horseback, leaving the capital. It wasn't until a month later that Jiang Yuhe found out he had already run away. That damn brat, what a waste. He used to swear he loved me, saying he would definitely come for me, and now I find out today that he only left a few guards at the post station to fool people. He's been gone for a whole month. What, are you disappointed? Jiang Yuhe sat across from me with her legs carelessly crossed, taking a bite of the fruit. How could that be? Just look at how ugly he is. That day when he spoke, he gave me a hand, and I ended up vomiting all the way. It's so disgusting. How can these people from Longnan be so coarse? The moment they speak, the smell is as if they've eaten 2 pounds of shit. I chuckled softly. What if you were from Longnan? Then I'd rather die by bashing my head in. I refuse to be of the same breed as a pig. Jiang Yuhe had an optimistic nature. She circled around my room, beaming with delight as she went. Indeed, marrying the Regent King is a good choice, if nothing else. At least he is truly handsome. Zhu Ting'an's situation may seem secure, but in reality, he is surrounded by wolves and tigers. The Empress Dowager intends to use the young emperor as a puppet to seize power, while Zhu Ting'an hopes the young emperor can stand on his own. The ministers waver for their own interests. Once the Marquis of Longnan makes a move, no one in the court will support Zhu Ting'an. His days of ease are numbered. Jiang Yuhe was terrified upon hearing this, and she immediately grabbed my hand. What are we waiting for? Sister, you can't ruin yourself over a man. You should divorce him as soon as possible. Although our father isn't very capable, at least no one wants to kill him. As long as he lives long enough, it's no problem for the two of us to let him support us for a few more decades. I laughed at that. And what about after those decades, when he dies, what will we do? Hey, how can you say such a thing and curse our father like that? Jiang Yuhe poked me, then tilted her head and said seriously, if that old man really dies, it wouldn't matter much anyway. Your sister here is as beautiful as a flower, with admirers everywhere. How could I not be able to support you? The door creaked open, and Zhu Ting'an walked in expressionless, placing a 2-meter-long broadsword on the table. Jiang Yuhe instinctively tried to hide under the table. Well, taking advantage of my absence to sneak in and cause trouble, are you? Jiang Yuhe crouched on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. No, it's nothing like that. Since Jiang Qingye has married your highness, she belongs to you in life and in death. She has nothing to do with the Jiang family anymore. Useless. Zhu Ting'an was quite pleased to hear this and said to me, the Prince of Longnan is making moves. The Emperor has ordered me to quell the rebellion. I'll be leaving the capital for a while. How long? It's hard to say. That's the Prince of Longnan's territory. There's no guarantee I'll return. Zhu Ting'an said it lightly, taking a sip of tea as if he were talking about someone else's business. Logically speaking, I should be happy to hear that he's going to Longnan. This trip is bound to involve some action. But for some reason, when I heard it might be a one-way journey, I felt a bit uneasy. I told Jiang Yuhe to leave first. She acted as if she had been granted a pardon, lifting her skirt to climb the wall, afraid that if she ran too slowly she'd be cut down, a rather comical sight. Thank you. For what? For helping me. Zhu Ting'an smiled and tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. Jiang Qingye, why are you suddenly so slow-witted now? You knew I would have this battle sooner or later. That's why you chose me, didn't you? Yes, Zhu Ting'an's situation is just like that, so I could choose him without any guilt. Because in my view, even if it wasn't for me, Zhu Ting'an would eventually come to a confrontation with the imperial power sooner or later. But without me, perhaps you could have lived a few more years of peaceful days. Zhu Ting'an laughed heartily. Since I was young, I've lived a life of licking blood off a knife's edge. The peaceful days you speak of, I truly couldn't live them. Some people are destined to have wind in their fate, fated to drift without anchor, driven by emotion, or perhaps because the atmosphere was just right. I leaned over and embraced him. I hope it's you who survives. Zhu Ting'an's arm encircled my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder, his voice suddenly tinged with a hint of lingering tenderness. Jiang Qingye, what if it isn't me? Would you still seek out the next person who could avenge you, offering yourself as a bargaining chip, marrying them, being with them just as you did with me? Yes, even if you die, I still have to seek revenge, don't I? Without the expected anger, Zhu Ting'an looked up at me with a smile and pinched my cheek. Jiang Qingye, I've always liked your stubborn, bull-headed tenacity. Over the past few years, thanks to you stirring up trouble at the manor every now and then, my life has been quite interesting. This is the divorce decree, sign it, and you'll have no further ties to the manor. Jiang Qingye, I am leaving. Zhu Ting'an rose to his feet with swift decisiveness, picked up his sword, and turned to walk out of the residence, staring at the paper signed with Zhu Ting'an's name. I was taken aback and couldn't help but ask him, "Are you divorcing me?" Zhu Ting'an, who had already reached the doorway, turned back with a smile and nodded. Yes, why? No reason why. A breeze rose in the courtyard. Zhu Ting'an stood rigidly under the eaves in his dark red-patterned black robe, as elegant as a jade-green pine, with an extraordinary demeanor. In those years, I always felt that Zhu Ting'an regarded people and things with an elusive indifference, even when he looked at me. It was as if he had chanced upon something interesting on a whim. I believe that such a person actually has no emotions. I've been at odds with him all these years, and he has said countless times, "Jiang Qingye, do you dare to die with me? If you dare to accompany me in death, I will indulge your defiance." It was as if rebellion was just a game, and the reward was me accompanying him to the grave. So when I learned he was leaving, my first thought was that he would demand I be buried with him after his death. At the very least, it would only be fair if I were to live as a widow for him. The one thing I never expected was a letter of divorce. Zhu Ting'an was still standing at the courtyard gate, watching me with a faint smile in his eyes, just as he used to whenever I urged him to rebel, silently gazing at me, helpless, yet with a touch of indulgence. I must be crazy too, to tear up the divorce agreement right in front of him. You'd better come back alive. Don't make me have to be buried with you. I'm still young. I don't want to die early. Zhu Ting'an laughed. This time it was a genuine, heartfelt laugh. For 2 months, Zhu Ting'an never sent back any news. Jiang Yuhe was so angry after learning that I had torn up the divorce letter that she stormed off, and it took her 3 to 5 days to come back and scold me. Jiang Qingye, have you lost your mind? Do you even understand the situation? Is that just a piece of paper? That's your life. Do you know what will happen to you without this thing? Once Zhu Ting'an dies, the forces from Longnan will take over the capital, and the first thing they'll do is surround the regent's mansion and kill you, the widow of a rebel. Do you think they'll give you a quick death? Let me tell you, they won't. They'll capture you, take you to the military camp, torture you, beat you, make you wish you were dead. Are you scared? I nodded, scared. Jiang Yuhe, upon hearing this, glanced around and quietly leaned in closer to me, pulling a piece of paper from her bosom and spreading it out on the table. It's good that you're scared. This is a memorial from Zhu Ting'an that I persuaded the Grand Tutor's youngest son to steal. The handwriting is my imitation. Just sign your name, and this matter will be settled. I looked at the handwriting, identical to Zhu Ting'an's, and reached out to touch it. You really like him, don't you? Jiang Yuhe was taken aback. What nonsense are you talking? Have you lost your mind? Zhu Ting'an is extremely arrogant and never writes memorials. Where did the Grand Tutor's youngest son steal that memorial from? Jiang Yuhe's eyes darted around, visibly nervous. I patted her hand to signal her not to be nervous. If Zhu Tingen were just an idle prince, I would certainly let you marry him. But he is not. You will meet a man more suited to you, to live a good life together. Jiang Yuhe bit her lip, and after a long while, she asked, will you sign it or not, sister? If I were to sign, I wouldn't have torn up the real one. Jiang Yuhe left in a huff and didn't come to see me for a long time after that, 5 months after Zhu Tingen left. My father came. This was the first time we had seen each other since he offered to die in my place last time. The regent has had an accident. He fell into Yelu Zong's ambush and was captured alive. I snorted. He took so many people with him, and he got captured alive, my father said with a serious expression. The people he took with him were all the emperor's men. A few months ago, the regent dealt a heavy blow to Yelu Zong, and countless soldiers from Longnan were killed or wounded. Seeing that his morale was nearly crushed and Yelu Zong Yuan was severely weakened, at this critical moment, the regent was captured alive. How ridiculous, my father sighed. The emperor is not the biological son of the empress dowager, and their relationship has always been strained. He is young and powerless, so naturally he relies on the regent to fight for his interests, but a subject's achievements overshadowing the ruler has always been a taboo for emperors throughout history. This time, the regent's southern campaign has left Longnan without the strength to fight in the short term. Our dynasty values filial piety. Out of respect for the empress dowager, the emperor will not annihilate Longnan. By handing over the regent to them now, we can quell the king of Longnan's anger. This will not only make the empress dowager's faction grateful for the emperor's mercy but also lull them into believing that all of this was the regent's doing. In the coming years, while Longnan is recuperating, it will be more than enough time for the emperor to reclaim imperial power and secure his position. My father's meaning was clear. Zhu Tingen is already a discarded pawn. That's a settled matter, at this moment. Signing that divorce agreement and cutting ties with him is the best timing. My father spoke with genuine emotion, and at the sad parts, he couldn't help but shed a few tears. Father, did you ever love my mother? My father froze, his lips trembling slightly. In my memory, you two always treated each other with respect, very politely, so politely it was as if you were just strangers living under the same roof. So, in fact, you never really loved her, did you? Even though she gave you a child, you never had any feelings for her. You never said it out loud, but deep down, you always looked down on her, didn't you? That's not right. It's not like that. It's that she can't move on. She's stuck in the pain of the past. Unwilling to look forward, she always wants revenge, only revenge. But I'm just an ordinary person. I can't avenge her. I can't kill Yelu Zong. I admit I'm a coward, but I don't think I'm wrong. I was afraid she'd think I looked down on her, looked down on Yuhe. I've treated Yuhe like my own daughter since she was little. Even though you are my biological daughter, if there was something good, I'd still give it to her first. When you grew up, I even thought, since my salary isn't high, I could let you marry out. As long as Yuhe is willing, I could support her forever. If I didn't love your mother, why would I go to such lengths for Yuhe? Father's eyes reddened. His stout body slumped on the stool as he weakly covered his face. But in this world, having a grievance doesn't guarantee revenge. When the disparity in strength is too great, seeking revenge is no different from courting death. My death wouldn't matter, but if I die, what will become of you? Your mother could leave without a care, but if I let go, how would you two children survive? I walked over and patted my father's back, then sat down beside him and leaned against him. Dad, I don't blame you. You did nothing wrong. This is your own life, and as long as you're happy with your choices, no one has the right to criticize you. I'm glad to hear you never looked down on her. If she had heard that, she would have been very happy too, when she passed away. You asked me if she had said anything. At that time, I saw not a trace of sadness in your expression, so out of spite, I didn't tell you. Father looked up. What did she say? Mother said, she once loved someone. That person made her feel like the happiest woman in the world, but they couldn't stay together. Instead, after enduring so much suffering, she met you, Mother said. She no longer remembers what it feels like to be in love, but the days with you made her feel secure. She actually wanted to live a good life with you, but her body just wouldn't cooperate. My father covered his face and wept bitterly. I glanced out the window. The sky was growing dark. If I didn't leave now, it would be too late. Taking advantage of my father's sobbing fit, I fished out a small bundle from under the bed, slung it over my shoulder, changed into a pair of shoes with double-patched soles, and stomped my feet a couple of times. They felt quite comfortable. Where are you going? My father stopped crying and looked at me in disbelief. Over the past few days, I had reinforced my whip, and now I could wrap it around my waist like a belt. Very convenient. Dad, as I said earlier, everyone's life is their own choice to make. I know you mean well for me, but I promised my mother I would avenge her. She gave birth to me, and I've never done anything for her. Now, doing something for her will put my heart at ease. Jiang Yuhe isn't of much use. Keep taking good care of her. She loves beauty and spends a lot of money, and you don't have much skill. Save up more, so she won't starve on the streets when you're gone. I pushed open the window, ready to climb out, but my father grabbed me by the arm. Tell me the truth, are you doing this to avenge your mother, or to save Zhu Tingen? What's the difference? I go rescue Zhu Tingen, and then we kill Yelu Zong and his son together. Isn't that just killing two birds with one stone? Of course it's different. If you kill Yelu Zong, the emperor might turn a blind eye, but if you rescue Zhu Tingen, our entire family will be executed. I patted my father on the shoulder. What are you talking about? What emperor? Once I rescue Zhu Tingen, he will be the emperor, and you will be the emperor's father-in-law. Who would dare execute our entire family? Just wait and enjoy your blessings. Dad, stop the nonsense, I need to hurry, or the emperor will come to besiege the palace. Before my father could speak, I stepped on his shoulders and leaped out of the courtyard. Riding a fast horse, I made my way to Longnan with ease, while crouching in a corner munching on a steamed bun and observing the prince of Longnan's mansion. I encountered Xiao Qi, who was pretending to be a beggar in a beggar's den. Hey, aren't you that guy? Xiao Qi was delighted to see me and casually smeared a handful of dirt on my face. I'm so angry I can't even eat. Give me a reason. Xiao Qi leaned in and whispered, aren't we supposed to be pretending to be beggars? It's easier to avoid being noticed that way. I've been squatting here all morning. The patrol soldiers have passed by me several times and no one paid me any attention. Are you blind? Xiao Qi looked me up and down. Oh, right. You're a woman, nobody would recognize you anyway. I angrily took a big bite of the steamed bun. Is he dead? Who? I glared fiercely at Xiao Qi, who looked completely clueless, then slapped his thigh. Oh, you mean the prince? I'm just scoping out the place. Haven't made a move yet. I patted my pants and stood up. These useless things. Completely worthless. Hey, where are you going? Going to fly in and take a look. I climbed over the wall into the Longnan Marquis's residence. There were quite a few guards in the courtyard, but they weren't very effective. I circled the courtyard once, and no one noticed me, and just like that, I found Yelu Zong's study. Damn it, I was just doing a proper guard handover, and these bastards twisted it into a rebellion. I'm so wronged, why the hell would I rebel? My sister is the Empress Dowager. I'm a feudal lord, living a life of luxury every day. What reason would I have to rebel, Lord Marquis? Don't be angry, this must be someone else's scheme to sow discord. You're right, it's definitely sowing discord. It must be that little brat Zhu Tingen behind this. The young emperor only listens to him these years. No one else would instigate this. Just look at the palace banquet, I even gave him what he wanted. How can he be so petty and hold a grudge? So, Lord Marquis, what do you plan to do now? What else can we do? Nearly half of our people were killed by that little beast Zhu Tingen. I've already written to the emperor, promising not to enter the capital for 10 years. As long as Her Majesty the Empress Dowager is safe, she will surely protect us. This isn't what I expected. Is it possible that Yelu Zong actually has no rebellious intentions? How spineless. TSK. I thought he had some ambition. With so much military power in his hands, he's actually willing to submit to others. Useless. Such a useless waste of space. He's better off dead. I'll send him on his way once night falls. Come to think of it, I reckon rescuing Zhu Tingen can wait. He's been locked up for so long. He's bound to be covered in injuries. Bringing him along would just be a burden. Let him endure a bit more beating. I found a large tree and slept for half the afternoon, until the moon was high in the sky. Then I stretched and loosened my limbs, taking advantage of the fact that no one was around. I dropped to the ground and did 50 push-ups, feeling my whole body stretch out, before climbing up to Yeluzong's window to peer inside. One look was all it took. He was forcing himself on the girl. The young girl was crying out pitifully, tears streaming down her face. Just as Yeluzong was about to reach a critical moment, I arched my back and slipped through the window. My dagger plunged into his heart from behind. The little girl tried to scream, but I knocked her out with a punch. What's all the shouting for? If you call people over, won't it just cause trouble? I killed Yeluzongwa and walked out of the room, kneeling on the ground to kowtow 3 times toward the sky. Mother, you can rest in peace now. I then went around to the backyard and peeked through Yelu Qingsu's window. Truly
I had known you were such a wolf cub, I should have beaten you to death that year. Do you know how your mother died? I'll tell you, I killed her. Competing with me for the late emperor's favor. Ha ha ha, they all had to die. You must be so angry knowing I killed your mother. Ha ha ha, but what can you do? You still can't kill me, isn't that infuriating? Miles per hour, how dare you? The Empress Dowager spat out blood, staring at me in shock, my hand gripping the dagger twisted fiercely. Does it hurt? Can't speak, can't curse anymore. How infuriating, isn't it, you old bastard, quite ruthless. Killed so many people, no wonder you ended up with no descendants, dying without even someone to collect your corpse or avenge you. What are you glaring at me for? Am I not speaking the truth? You brought so many beauties to win over the late emperor, so how come you never had children? Have you ever considered that maybe the late emperor found you disgusting, couldn't bring himself to touch you, or deliberately kept you from bearing children? After all, what comes from a beast is still a beast. The Empress Dowager suddenly showed a ferocious expression and reached out to strangle me. As if I hadn't trained my martial arts for nothing, I kicked her hard. And she crashed into a pillar before slowly sliding down. His eyes remained open in death. After leaving Sinning Palace, Zhu Ting'an asked me, how did you know the late emperor forbade her from having children and deliberately gave her medicine? I was taken aback. I didn't know that, I was just trying to provoke her. Zhu Ting'an ascended the throne. On the day of his ascension, the coronation ceremony for the empress was held simultaneously. I'm so angry. I feel like he's repaying kindness with enmity. I never knew organizing these grand ceremonies could be so exhausting. At night, I collapsed onto the bed, too tired to even take off my clothes, but Zhu Ting'an, that scoundrel, seemed to have endless energy, still wanting to stir up trouble even in this state. In the middle of the night, I couldn't take it anymore and kicked him. Enough already, Jiang Qingye, you haven't even comforted me yet. Back then, you said if I died, you would marry someone else and do such things with them. It makes me so sad. I was taken aback. When did I ever say that? Zhu Ting'an looked at me with a pitiful expression. Think carefully. The day I left the capital. Stop joking. What I clearly said that day was, I would avenge you even if you died. But when did I ever say I wanted to get married? Zhu Ting'an was taken aback at first, then grinned and leaned in, kissing my ear and whispering, baby, do you like me now? I didn't say a word, closing my eyes and pretending not to hear. Zhu Ting'an was still smiling, interlocking his fingers with mine, and continued, it's okay if you don't like me now. Even if you don't like me now, you will definitely like me in the future. Zhu Ting'an extra. This was already the 3rd time this month that the second Miss Jiang had climbed over the wall into the prince's mansion. This little thing is surprisingly nimble. With just a lift of its leg, it slipped into the courtyard. Your Highness, this is the latest defense map of Longnan. As you can see, it hasn't changed much from last month, except for a new checkpoint set up at this intersection. Your men just need to sneak in through the moat, split into 5 teams, and enter the city from here, 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 and here. In less than 5 hours, you'll have taken Longnan. I rested my head on my hand and watched her. This little thing is quite amusing. It sounds so damn real. Bring the pastries. The pastries arrived quickly, and the little rascal was truly shameless, picking them up and eating them all without leaving a single piece for me. I looked at the plate with only a few crumbs left, feeling somewhat helpless. See the guest out. The next day, she came again. This time, she didn't discuss the defense map but instead gave me a grand lecture on the benefits of being an emperor. She elaborated from various aspects such as lifestyle, career, and family, speaking with such eloquence that it was truly unstoppable. She ate a whole tray of my snacks and then left. For almost the next year, she came by every few days. I had the butler roughly calculate it, and that thing must have eaten at least 70 trays of our family's snacks. What an appetite. Then, suddenly, she stopped coming. It's been 2 months since it stopped, and I've asked Xiao Qi a few times, did you close the mansion gate? Xiaoqi shook his head in confusion. No, why would I close the mansion gate? Right, why would he close the mansion gate? She always climbs over the wall. I took another look at the wall. Isn't our wall a bit too high? Xiaoqi was even more confused. Too high? Miss Jiang II only needs to lift her leg once to climb over it every time. I think this wall isn't just not high, it's actually a bit too short. We should add another half meter, so that at the very least, Miss Jiang II would have to lift her leg twice. Unnecessary. If she doesn't come to me, then I'll go to her. After all, it's been a long time since I've met someone so interesting. After all these years as the regent, this is my first time stepping into the Jiang residence. There's no particular reason that old man Jiang Zheng is a coward who can't speak without kneeling, and I really didn't want to see him, but his daughter is truly interesting, really bold. Oh my, where did this handsome, young man come from? Are you looking for me? At the entrance of the Jiang residence stood a girl, not only dressed flamboyantly but also speaking with a flirtatious tone, exuding an air of coquetry from head to toe. My impression of Jiang Zheng worsened even more. The old man actually kept courtesans at home, not even afraid of corrupting his own daughter. I am here to see your second young miss. The woman was a bit unhappy. Why are you looking for her? She's practicing with a broadsword. Why don't you play with me instead? As she spoke, the woman began to get handsy. I pushed her away, and her eyes instantly lit up. So manly. No one has ever treated me like this before. Young master, from now on, I'm yours. I strode into the courtyard. The Jiang family really doesn't have a single normal person. Fortunately, Jiang Qingye was also acting normal. When I entered, she was brandishing her large blade with such ferocity that rubble flew in all directions, and she herself resembled a majestic lion. Upon seeing me, Jiang Qingye spun around on the spot, drove her blade into the ground with a clang, and came to a halt. Something wrong? Why haven't you come to find me? Your king? Jiang Qing was also taken aback. What do you want me for? Have you forgotten? The rebellion. Jiang Qing suddenly seemed to lose interest in the rebellion and said indifferently, "Oh, let's do it another day. I'm busy today." Very well, woman, your tactic of playing hard to get has successfully caught my attention. From then on, wherever Jiang Qingye went, I would make sure to pass by. When she went to the brothel to drink and enjoy the company of courtesans, I would sit in the private room across from her and watch. She went to the casino to cheat, and I stood on the second floor admiring her grace. Jiang Yuhe was confronted by the parents of a young man she flirted with, and Jiang Qingye rolled up his sleeves and kicked them flying all over the street. Oh, and another time, a young man from some family came to the Jiang residence wanting to propose to Jiang Qingye. Upon hearing the commotion, I immediately went over. Beside the young master lay a chest of betrothal gifts, and he shyly asked Jiang Qingye if she would be willing to marry him. My teeth are on edge. It's so disgusting. With just one chest of betrothal gifts, he dares to ask for Jiang Qingye's hand. As expected, Jiang Qingye didn't agree, but she had a kind heart. Knowing the young master couldn't carry heavy loads or lift things, she actually kindly carried the chest back to his mansion for him. At that moment, I thought, this girl, she's worth marrying. So kind. My fondness for Jiang Qingye grew gradually. She may appear aloof, but she deeply cares for those around her, especially Jiang Zheng and even more so Jiang Yuhe. She always says her sister is beautiful, but in my eyes, she is the most beautiful, like an orchid in a secluded valley, or an edelweiss atop a high mountain peak. The year Jiang Qingye turned 20, I once got drunk and climbed over the wall to find her. Jiang Qingye, would you be willing to die with me? If you are, I can join you in the madness. At that moment, Jiang Qingye was still half asleep. She rubbed her eyes and sat up, her fair and delicate little face utterly adorable, with a slightly dazed look. Ju Tingen, as long as you help me, my life is yours. I smiled and thought, let the chaos begin then. From childhood to adulthood, I've had a miserable life, never experiencing love or a stable existence. Jiang Qingye was right. The stability I have now is merely the last moment of peace before the storm hits. Some things will happen whether I take the initiative or not. In that case, it's better to do as Jiang Qingye said and prepare early. From then on, I began to raise private soldiers, forge a large number of weapons, and even recruit troops from thousands of miles away. I often feel that Jiang Qingye is a person with a story, although her living environment seems truly beautiful and simple. But she always seems preoccupied. However, she never says why. Every time Jiang Yuhe asks her why she's unhappy, she would smile, pat her sister's head, and say, I'm happy as long as you're happy. I knew back then that Jiang Yuhe was very important to her. Jiang Yuhe liked me, bothering me one day and then again the next. At first, I was a bit annoyed, but later I thought it might actually be an opportunity. When that bowl of thick, paste-like soup was placed in front of me, I hesitated for a few moments. I really hoped Jiang Yuhe could have some sense and use a normal person's amount, which would count as her accidentally doing a good deed. After drinking that soup, I felt like I was about to explode. When I saw Jiang Qingye, I couldn't help but want to pounce on her and devour her. Jiang Qingye's martial arts skills are incredible. My back is swollen from her strikes, and I like her even more now. The days after marriage were quite pleasant. And Jiang Qing was also very gentle. I learned her secret, and I am prepared to avenge her. When Zhu Di sent me to Longnan, I knew he hoped I would die there. No matter, I was going there anyway. For the first few months I was fighting, the Marquis of Longnan stayed behind the scenes. He didn't dare confront me directly, so I couldn't find an opportunity to kill him. When I had killed half of his men, I knew the time had come. Zhu Di had used my hand to achieve his goal. And now my usefulness was running out. His men indeed took advantage of the chaos to push me out, and I went along with it, following the men of the Marquis of Longnan back to his dungeon. I thought, this time I would finally get to see him. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect the Marquis of Longnan to be such a coward. Even with me tied up, he still didn't dare to come see me. I've been locked up for over a month, and I'm starting to feel like I can't take it anymore. The day Jiang Qingye came, I was truly happy. I never thought she would come. She doesn't really like me, nor does she have any feelings for me. Under these circumstances, I didn't think she would travel all this way to save me, but she came, and that made everything worth it. Whether she wants the world or seeks revenge, I will grant her every wish. Many years later, Jiang Qingye and I sat together on the rooftop, gazing at the moon. Qingye lay in my arms and asked, "Weren't you afraid back then? Afraid that I might never come to like you?" I kissed her forehead, my tone content and gentle. "Even so, I would have stayed by your side, waiting for you to fall in love with me."